Greetings and welcome to the CIG. My name is Jarvis, and with me as always is the man who translates ill brain to English, Lightning Dragon.
Like rap slang ill? Like, man, that sick dope rhyme is ill, yo. I don't know what I'm doing.
Word. I am extremely ill. I've been sick for more than a week, and I'm going to try to get through this. There's actually some good stuff to talk about and some other miscellaneous. For starters, I'd like to get into the fact that as far as the flight panel goes, several of the people that I want to have on that, they've been delayed with real life stuff. So I had a thought about this. Since we're like a month out from Evocati again, I was thinking, since the VTOL and atmospheric stuff still isn't fully online, and I feel that when that comes online, that's going to cause another major change to flight dynamics potentially. So what I was thinking is maybe I should wait for both sides of that coin to be completed before we do the panel. I'm kind of curious to know what your thoughts are about that. If you want to wait to a 3.6 flight panel, because without having the atmospheric stuff in, without having that side of it in, maybe it's all those mechanics, it's not going to be worth reviewing it because of the potential changes that might come in. Anyway, just let us know now.
And who knows what else is going to be added and changed between them.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say it with an addled brain. So let's go ahead and get into some Star Citizen news. And this week, in whatever it's called in Star Citizen, reverse the verse, around the verse, inside Star Citizen, inside Star Citizen is what it's called now. So we'll go with that. All right. So they went into a bit of the evolution of the new flight experience. Now, one of the things I want to point out here on the footage, and this is one of the things that I have a kind of a strong feeling about, is the snappiness on rotation rates.
You got a bugbear.
And a what?
A bugbear. You've never heard that?
I have played Dungeons and Dragons. What does a bugbear have to do with anything?
Well, it's like, I have a bone to pick with this. I got a bug. It's a bugbear. It's a D&D joke. You should know these things.
Not my current condition. Anyway, so the thing is that if you watch, they do like a comparison between like 3.4 and 3.5. Now, one of the things, I'm using a Gunfighter 2 Pro. So it's like nearly a $400 stick. And while I have no issues flying or controlling the rotations, particularly the roll in any, on the theme of things, I'm just going to leave that in.
What?
The brief interruption there was that my cable disconnected from my studio mic. And just throw that in. I'm sick now. My computer's messing me up too, or at least the physical equipment. Too. Yeah, there we go. This is gonna be a big messy episode. So live it and love it. Now, what I was trying to say a few minutes back, but I had to go redo everything, get this working again, was that I have this really nice stick. Okay, it's really a top of the line, and don't have any issues controlling rotations or turning with any flight game I have. It doesn't matter.
I'm gonna laugh so hard if it freaks out again when you start talking about this.
I know. If it does, I'm just gonna go fill the bathtub up and then lay face down in the bathtub. The end. So anyway, the thing is that but in Star Citizen, when it particularly comes to the roll, it is very binary. It has a tendency just to feel like I'm going all or nothing. Now, only on the larger ships do you really start to feel like there's this rotational acceleration and deceleration. You start to feel the mass of the ships, but on the small ones, it's very much like flying a small drone, a camera drone. That's what it feels like. Now, the reason I kind of bring that up is because they had talked about in that little section talking about the evolution of the new flight experience is that they've been slowly creeping speeds back up, to match some of the feedback that's come in on that. The problem with that is that this creeping of speeds up has been the answer to every flight model that's come out, and it's always led to the same place. So maybe what they should do is explore other factors, because right now, when I have a nearly $400 joystick that works great with every flight game I have, with the exception of Star Citizen because of its binary nature on the way that rotations work, and maybe you need to take a look at some of those issues, particularly with the rotations. That not just necessarily how fast things move or how fast things accelerate. No, don't get me wrong, accelerations are too high too. But the thing is that they're better. I mean, all this stuff is better than where it was. But what I'm saying is, don't go back down the same roads again. It's like, oh yeah, we moved away from where it was terrible, and then some people who loved it, or at least liked it more at this terrible end, are really loud. So we should listen to them and then go in a slightly different direction. I mean, same direction, but slightly different end result with the same terribleness. So just don't do it. Just try their things.
Some of the best games are not defined by what they can do, it was by what they can't do.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. You know, you can't have chess where every piece can move in every direction and do everything. It just doesn't work. You know, the reason that games you can be good at game, or a game can be really good or have depth, is because of those limitations. You know, those have to be imposed sometimes. And some people say, well, I remember them saying that, you know, they were talking about the rotation rates, that they didn't want to go below a certain point that they weren't comfortable with. But the thing is that their comfort has very little to do with the overall design of the ships. They've designed ships to work a certain way, because including the turrets, the multi-crew, everything. Unless they want to redesign ships from scratch, they're going to have to make sure that form follows function. And since they already made the form, they're going to have to make sure that function follows that form. You've literally painted yourself into a corner as far as a flight model goes. And so you're going to have to be very much keep that in your front of your mind, because you have literally, as I said, painted yourself into a corner. So you have to be restrictive in some regards. That's just the truth of the matter. It's not anything that, you know, it just kind of is what it is. It's not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. I mean, I loved Wing Commander. I love those kind of games, and I don't think you can ever say Star Citizen will be a full sim, but you got to at least make things work together. It could be a great game. It could be a really fun game, but it's never going to be a full sim. And once you throw that idea out the window, just start making a game that works with the assets you've made. You know, and that doesn't make your arm like want to fall out of its socket after you play for like 30 minutes.
Not even 30 minutes. It was like 15.
Yeah, Lightning got into a dogfight the other day, and his arm hurt for 2 days. And that, I mean, you know, you throw VR into the mix, and then you're gonna have like, you know, you're gonna have not only a tendonitis simulator, but you're gonna have a vomit simulator too. So there's a whole issue you got going on with VR coming in as well. So you get VR, the pacing is too high with VR. You're going to have people literally throwing up on their keyboards. It's just a lot of things, guys. It's just a lot of things you want to do with your game that you have on your roadmap that you're not factoring in, I don't think, as well as you should.
I need a light that I can flash on you that says wrap it up. So that when you start getting on the tangents.
That's true. Maybe I'll get you like one of those little dog collar. You could zap me from way over on the West Coast. But as I said, I'm not fully here today. I'm still I'm not feeling good.
It's fine. Anyway, moving on.
For now. They showed some character art for the new ELD clothing from Microtech. They're looking at animated and glowing textures for clothing. So I want the clothing that's glowing and animated bullseye right in the middle of my chest as I'm in the middle of the woods. That would be fun.
I don't want any freaking glowing shit on my armor. I hate that stuff so much.
Well, no, this is just standard clothing. So it says, but still, I mean, just to have a big bullseye, it's like the most dangerous game. You just say, hey, why come I'm wearing this? Oh, run. The environmental art team is working on scaling the art of moons, and these canyons they showed on that. Oh my gosh, they look photogenic. I mean, they look like the real Grand Canyon kind of thing. It was impressive. They're really taking this scaling to a new level. And if they can continue to push that, that's going to be an absolute joy to drive around and fly around and just experience. It's amazing. Once again, back to the art team. You guys are just nailing it in every sense of the word.
Yeah, fly around then. Yeah, maybe. Drive around then. Maybe.
Hey,
They need to work on that
the
stuff.
Dukes of Daymar sequel has to happen.
Well, if we get some decent ground physics, yeah, sure. Oh, here it goes. Vroom, vroom, vroom.
Long about now, I bet that boy wishes he had a parachute.
Now the Vanguard, this is actually a kind of a good one. It's going to be getting its wheels and its treads back. I can say about that is hot damn. That's good news for those who really love that look. I was a huge fan of that when it came out. It was a huge disappointment when they just threw skids on it and they basically just slapped it together from parts of other ships, and it lost so much character. Hopefully that's just the first step of getting some of that, what made the Vanguard what the Vanguard is. I mean, I'm not going to unmelt it as much as, because I have too many ships as it is right now, but for those of you who have it, maybe they're going to get this ship back on track because it
People
lost
were
so
really
much.
upset.
Yeah.
There was a lot of upset people when after it got released for like constant sales, like here it is, and it's like it's not the same ship anymore. Oh well, yeah it is. See, it says Vanguard on the side.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it was smaller. It lost a lot of its armament. It lost the awesome landing gear. It just lost the beastliness of it, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, there it is. So they also showed off some of the internal analytics that they kind of did a break. They kind of scrolled through real quick how they use feedback from player information to iterate on what they do, and I found some of this pretty interesting. Now, I took some screenshots here.
Charts and statistics.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm rusty. I tutored statistics in college, but the thing is that's not neither.
That was like 400 years ago.
Yeah, tell me about it. So anyway, this isn't something you need have statistics for anyway. But when you're looking at the control preferences options, and it looks like it's a pretty even split right now between first order devices such as sticks and gamepads, and also throttles, left hand sticks, to keyboard and mice. So it's a pretty even split. And so you constantly hear on the forums that people want to use flight devices are like the vast minority. Even though there was an initial poll that came out that said like 70% of some of the player base wanted to use a stick, and I think the reason that the participants on this list aren't even as high as that at the moment is because they're still waiting for the game to control better and to feel better for they and have other things before they start getting into it more.
Cough, cough. More content. Cough, cough, cough.
Exactly, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of people who are just kind of waiting around for that certain point. But even at this current stage, it shows that no, it's not the minority. In fact, it shows that there's still a very, very strong pull for these things. Now, because of that, I want to go back into what I was talking about a little while ago about the rotation rates. This whole binary being too snappy kind of thing. It doesn't work very well. In the whole binary nature of the way the accelerations work, like when you're uncoupled. If you want acceleration, you have to go decoupled. But even then, there is a level of 0 and 1 on stuff that just feels like there's no mass on things. And if you build the game around basically that kind of focus, you're alienating 50% of your controller base right off the top end. And then you get into when they showed careers. And there's two categories here that are combat focused. And one of them makes it towards the top, and the other one's towards the bottom. That's piracy. Now, I'm going to give it this initially speaking. We're going to give them my initial numbers, and then we cut it in half later for obvious reasons. But if these people, 100% of them, are PvP focused, that is 640 players out of 6,194 participants, and that means that in this game, that 10.33% based on these numbers are looking at PvP. Then that's if 100% of those two categories are looking to PvP. Now, that means that there's 89.66% that are not looking as a PvP as a focus. The thing is, though, is that those careers that are listed as combat careers, those can be done without ever invoking PvP. And you could probably cut that in half again, leaving to
I
about...
think cut that more than that. 'cause
Probably, but I'm gonna
Chris.
yeah, I would be generous and say
Isn't
half. just
Chris
say
trying to go
5%.
for 90% of the world as NPC.
Yeah. But you say like 5% of the player base looks like are going to be PvP related. Now, why I bring that up is because we're going back to what I talked about earlier with the feedback, this thing of faster. And I'm going to go back to the extremely generous 10.33% of 100% of those guys are PvPing 100% of the time. If that 89.66% of your remaining player base it's not PvP, they're the ones not only going to be probably your biggest backers because of the ones who buy the big ships, the non-fighter ships, and they're also the ones going to want to have a more interesting and less snappy, more a flight model that matches, that's going to blend with the whole. You can't just
exploring and mining.
Yeah, exactly. If you build the flight model around that 10.33 generous 10.33%, you would be alienating 89.66% of your player base, and you would be alienating the largest percentage of your backers. And I would say probably 95% of your money-making backer base. Not a good move. So you need to stop just listening to those guys, the guys who just want things faster and faster, because they're going to be, most of them are going to be gone in 6 months to a year, off to the new Call of Duty or some other new space game that comes out, whatever. They're going to be gone. That's just how it works. I mean, that's the kind of fast-paced, focused player looks for the new next big thing with the most players to fight in. And Star Citizen,
look that stuff up
yeah,
easily from all the games.
Yeah, in Star Citizen, where you're going to be traveling 20 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe an hour between systems. That's not instant action enough for people. They're not going to stick around. Not for PvP. So as I said, you looking at this is from CIG's own numbers. I think it's wise for them to put those desires at the bare minimum. And if you build a strong flight model and a strong base that handles the PvE well and fun and everything like that, then and everything blends, then the good PvP should come out of that naturally. You just need to go ahead and make sure everything blends well together, and then it'll happen through fleet dynamics and not just one ship versus one ship. That's too small thinking. When I talk PvP, I'm thinking like 10 ships over here of different types, and maybe 15 ships over there of different types, and they're going at it. The dynamics between that. But if you're building everything around Arena Commander, it won't work. They also showed off a bit more of the Banu Defender, but there really wasn't much more that they showed on that than we've already haven't seen before, so not too much of an update on that. So let's get into Reverse the Verse. So I'm going to go over a few of the questions here that we had interest in and talk about them. First, let's talk about travel time. How to fill that time was kind of asked. And that depends on the ship. Larger ships will give you more things to do. There will be probability volumes that create chances of random things happening or being detected. It didn't sound like they're changing the travel times at all, which is fine by me. I get the idea of those probability volumes being important, and I think, especially when it comes to exploration ships, having bigger sensors, you might be able to detect more interesting things and decide to drop out of travel and go explore those things. So we'll have to see how that develops.
Talking about travel time, my favorite topic. So, there may still be a horse here to beat, but we're going to continue beating it because I love to talk about this. I still think travel times are going to have to change. It depends on how big they scale up the systems, because right now we're still basically in one area of a gas giant right now, right?
Well,
Yeah.
we've got we've got the gas giant area and plus a couple other planets currently. There's still another planet and an asteroid ring, I think.
Yeah, but it's what we're playing in right now. What we're testing is a very, very, very small system. It's a gas giant, some moons, a couple orbital bodies that are probably closer than they would be in reality. So
I mean, stuff's gonna have to change. I don't know how it's gonna change, but I can't see it staying the same. And Jarvis and I disagree with this, and that's fine.
They went over harvestable entities. That tech is going to be starting in 3.6 and be developed through 3.7. That's basically where trees, rocks, plants, crates, whole ships can be spawned that can have lootable stuff inside of it. That is, when they said originally harvestable entities, I was thinking like, you pick a peach off a peach tree or something, but it really sounds like it's a whole thing for anything that can be harvested or anything that can be picked up and any subcategories therein. I think that's pretty interesting. I like that. You find some down ship and the game automatically fills all the slots and everything, and that's awesome. I like that. That's much different than I originally thought.
It'd be really good for generating missions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Server-side OCS is a huge priority, but there's no firm release time yet. That's why it's not on the roadmap. All right, the new shield tech is getting ready to come online. It works like a second skin. It is form-fitting. While I do like this, it also has the added difficulty, the fact that, as you know right now, that Star Citizen is a game that requires extreme precision with shooting. This will, of course, increase the precision even more. So that's another obstacle they're going to have to go ahead and deal with. And that, a large part, comes down to pacing again, but that's a horse that's also been beaten to death. Some people were noticing that there's a film grain effect being added into the game. The film grain effect was added for the rendered texture. When the dev was asked that, he wasn't aware that it had actually bled into the entire game. He's going to take a look at that. Mission payouts, those are still being analyzed. The distance and the payouts, along with more local missions, are being looked at for development. They want to be able to hotfix these values on the server side to make live adjustments. The missions will have more detailed descriptions in the future to help you make better decisions of whether or not to pick up that mission.
Well, this is another big one for me. Some of the mission payouts that we've been playing, they were okay. They weren't great, but some of the missions were pretty quick. We had a lot of fun doing some of them just because of the nature of the game. But whenever we play a Star Citizen, we kind of have to make our own fun. We don't really have fun in the game world. We need a lot more choices, more options. Definitely scaling better depending on the risk. If it's a combat mission, it should be inherently higher than like a cargo mission that's, like, hey, we have a box of donuts on the planet and the moon station wants them. So it's, like a 15-20 minute flight. Missions like that really shouldn't pay that much. There's almost no risk involved.
Yeah, the whole mission system is going to need a lot of tweaking as it goes along. And I think, obviously, the more people that play and the more dynamics that come in, it'll get more data and it'll get better. It's very rudimentary right now. It almost feels kind of handcrafted.
Placeholder.
Yeah. Now they got some details of the layers of HUD on helmets. Initially, you have contact lenses for a HUD. That's going to let you see like your chat logs, your chat window, and then you're going to have a helmet HUD. And then you're going to have it when your helmet interfaces with your ship. You'll have the ship HUD. And of course, you have your mobi-glass. They want these things to change contextually based upon what you're wearing and what you're doing. Now, different helmets will get different HUDs. An exploration helmet will present data that is related to exploration, maybe like the atmosphere, maybe all sorts of things going on in the area that could be a danger to you. I don't know. Maybe it'll show minerals if you do a scan. I don't know. Whatever they come up with. A combat helmet with like a combat armor will give different information. It may have infrared on it. I don't know. We don't know. But they said that basically that an MFD rework is also coming to increase readability on the ships. So I think this has to go along the lines of all that, the whole thing with the HUD and everything being worked through Flash and the whole thing needing a rework. It's too hard to make changes on the fly. So we'll see what happens.
It's also really hard to use and read their UI. Not only just the UI, mobi-glass being part of that, but the interaction system is very clunky. It feels like it's a student project.
Yeah, it's definitely a refinement. Someone did ask, are we able to spawn in initially at a different location? Eventually, they do want to make that a reality. That when if after a wipe or something, they say, okay, I want to go to Crusader, and then where do you want to spawn? I want to spawn on Area 18. That's where you'll start. That's really not on the roadmap at the moment. But they did also mention something interesting in that question. I don't know if it was a miswording or whatever, but they talk about the personal inner thought. It sounded like what he said is they're looking at moving to a radial menu, much like Jester AI does in DCS for choices, and I would prefer that over the current methodology. So I think that if that's what they meant, I'm happy about that. But that could have been a misspeak too. I don't know. They got into ship rentals a little bit. You rent the ship for X amount of days. They haven't determined if that's real world or game days. They're studying edge case scenarios, like what happens if your rental runs out and you're fully loaded with cargo. How does that work? So they want to make sure all those dynamics are taken care of before they set that to live. Why these rentals are important is because ships are really expensive, and the rentals could help people test out some ships. The amount of money you need to buy ships right now is pretty insane, and at least as far as what you're bringing in. And the game needs persistence. It needs persistence a lot, and I think Lightning agrees that it's pretty much one of their top goals that they need to have. And even Chris Roberts said it along the lines is that people aren't testing because they don't want to start over all the time. They just kind of play a little bit, and they're like, okay, I've seen everything that this build has, and then they'll be back like in 3 months, and that's the testing they get out of them. But if there was persistence, whatever they earned or achieved or whatever they did in that build, and they knew it would carry forward, I think you'd see a lot more people sticking through the builds. It would be willing to work to earn that ship, to get it onto their account. And even if they knew that eventually, like right before it's officially the launch build, or before it goes to that beta, we're starting everyone at zero from the beta, but between here and the next 2 years, whatever you earn is in this alpha test case, you keep rolling forward with. I think people would be more interested in doing that. But there should be some level of persistence that's needed really badly right now, I think, to encourage players to play more.
I think it's the number one thing they should be working on, followed by an economy.
All right, and someone asked a question about something I've mentioned several times in on our little extra cast blast, the quantum travel shake. When you're in the cockpit, everything's shaking and shimmying around you. You get to walk around a ship, everything's still shaking and shimmying. They said they're working on a cockpit experience, light states dropping out, bespoke states. It didn't sound like the guy understood what the actual question was related to.
It's like they don't know the game they're making.
Well, yeah, the question was pretty clear. I'm like, what are you gonna do about the shaking effect when you're in the cockpit? And he was answering like about light states and everything. Like, no. This is a very clear, because I have the 600i, and when I walk downstairs, you go down to the back of the ship into the bar, and you see things vibrating. It's just weird. It's mostly next to the windows and stuff like that, but the whole thing is that the ship, it's a weird effect and it needs to go away. I don't like it. So my question was, automated landing currently forces you to fly down into the docking ports before being able to activate. Are there plans to increase the distance that this feature can be activated, allowing for easier landing in these tighter landing situations? I was kind of surprised, but that's something they hadn't even considered. At least I got it on their minds. But
what you mean? It sounds like they don't play their own game and they don't understand the problems. Oh, what a surprise!
Well, I was just saying, it's like, you're trying to land a hammerhead and going straight down. Like, you're 10 feet from the deck. Now I can use automated landing. It's like,
or I don't know, maybe you're trying to land a retaliator and you point it straight down and you go down, and there's so much acceleration values that you tap one direction, you slam into a wall, you tap the other direction, you slam into the wall behind you, and then the ship gets stuck in the ground when you hold the automatic landing button. Eventually you just bail out of the ship, and then you jump out, you shatter both your legs, and then you quickly heal yourself and run away from the ship that's now glitching into the ground. And then, of course, the ship doesn't save because you didn't properly land, because their landing system and their acceleration values
look. Stop bringing up these hypothetical scenarios. We don't need to hear your chaos theory crap. Okay, it doesn't happen. And on a final note, we want to bring up a very important date in the history of video games. In 1986, The Legend of Zelda became the first game to possess battery-backed memory, aka persistence, directly on the game cartridge. This method of saving gameplay became more common during the Super Nintendo era in the 1990s. So all we need now is 1986 technology, and we are good to go.
Oh yeah.
All right, and I know that was a snippy comment to make, but you know what? Lightning found that, and I had to read it.
Yeah. I was looking up. It's like, when was saves invented? Because I know it was a big deal. Because original games, if you go can't speak. If you go far back enough on these original games, you actually had to program a lot of the game yourself to play the game, and then later the game was done for you. And then there was no saves. Saves were a big deal. I mean, it was the Wild West of video gaming, and here we are in the current year, and Star Citizen doesn't have saves. Not really.
Getting closer. Getting closer.
One day, maybe in 5 or 6 more years, they will understand the hard to replicate 1986 save state technology.
Indeed. The future is now in 1986. And on that note, we will catch you on the next one.
Whenever that's going to be.
The news is they are giving it to us very sparsely now.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Oh man, gosh, I feel like crap.
And then Jarvis died because he was so excited that they answered his question, he couldn't even speak it and choked to death.
Yeah, please let me die. I have not felt this bad in a long time, dude. Oh.